Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast.
Hello.
Today we're tackling a topic that I think every single one of us has battled with at some point, whether we want to admit it or not. It's that sinking feeling when you sit down to check, one email, just one quick task, and suddenly you look up, it's dark outside.
You're right.
And you have absolutely no idea where the last 10 hours went.
Or the flip side, which is, I would argue, even more panic-inducing.
Oh, yeah.
You have a deadline in 2 days. You are convinced, absolutely convinced, that the task is only going to take, 20 minutes?
Right.
So you wait. You wait until the last possible second, and then you discover it's actually a 4-hour job, and the panic sets in.
We have all been there. But today, we aren't talking about laziness. And we're not just saying someone is bad with time.
Yeah.
We are doing a deep dive into the concept of time blindness.
Oh, right. And it's so crucial to distinguish this immediately. We're looking at this not as a personal failing, a character flaw, but as a specific, almost mechanical disconnect between how we perceive time passing and the objective reality of the clock.
Which is incredibly relevant right now. I mean, think about the current business landscape.
Oh, absolutely.
We have remote work, asynchronous teams, high efficiency expectations. The old guardrails of the 9-to-5 office are pretty much gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In this kind of environment, the ability to manage your own internal clock is, it's no longer just a nice to have.
No.
It's a critical soft skill that directly impacts hard results. So our mission for this discussion is pretty clear. We want to treat our source material as a comprehensive resource for the modern professional.
Moving past the shame of being late and into the strategic mechanics of it all.
Exactly.
Today we're pulling our insights from an article titled Overcoming Time Blindness, How to Stay Aware of Where Your Time Goes by Felix Römer from smartkeys.org. And I want to start with the definition because time blindness gets thrown around a lot.
It does, and he gets really specific. He defines it as a persistent difficulty in judging how quickly moments pass. But what's fascinating is that it involves two distinct, almost opposite feelings.
Okay.
On one hand, you have moments just slipping away unnoticed. That's the where did the day go feeling.
Right.
But on the other hand, you have moments that stretch out endlessly where, 5 minutes feels like an hour.
It's that mismatch that gets you. The article breaks this down into two modes of attention that I found really, really illuminating.
Automatic attention and directed attention.
Yes, and this explains so much, like why I can be hyperproductive on one thing but just freeze up on a spreadsheet.
Precisely. Automatic attention is the fun one. It's what takes over when an activity is engaging or enjoyable. This is where hyperfocus lives.
Okay.
Your brain is stimulated, the dopamine is flowing, and your perception of time just speeds up. It's why 4 hours on a creative task can feel like 15 minutes.
But then there's the other side of the coin. Directed attention.
This is the slog.
The slog.
Yeah. This is the have-to mode. When a task is low stimulation, boring paperwork, a dry report, your brain has to manually direct effort just to stay on track.
And that's when time slows down.
It dilates. 5 minutes of filling out a form feels like an hour because your brain is actively fighting this drain on its resources.
So it's not just in your head. Well, it is, but it's biological. And the article actually gets into the neuroscience of this, looking at the prefrontal cortex.
It does, and it uses this really great analogy from Dr. Gita Grover. She calls the prefrontal cortex the conductor of an orchestra.
The conductor. I love that.
It's a perfect analogy. I mean, think about what a conductor does. They coordinate all the different sections.
Right, the timing, who comes in when.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The tempo, when to start, when to stop. The prefrontal cortex does that for our cognitive functions. It coordinates planning, inhibition, which is just the ability to say no to distractions, and monitoring.
And with time blindness, it's like the conductor has, stepped off the podium for a coffee break?
Or maybe the conductor is just overwhelmed. The text explains that when this conductor struggles, which you often see with ADHD, autism, or even just during periods of high stress or low mood,
Sure.
the perception of duration becomes uneven. The orchestra loses the beat. And it's crucial to see this as a brain-based pattern. It is not a moral failing. It's a mechanical breakdown.
Okay, so let's unpack what this actually looks like. Because I think a lot of listeners might be thinking, well, I don't have a diagnosis, so this isn't me.
But the symptoms are so common.
Right. The article lists some red flags that I see in the corporate world all the time.
Absolutely. The most obvious one is, chronic lateness, missed deadlines. But there are subtler signs. The text mentions something called time amnesia. This is when you consistently underestimate how long a task will take.
Oh, I am guilty of this.
You think writing that brief will take 20 minutes, but if you actually look at the data, it has always taken you an hour. Yet every single time, you plan for 20 minutes.
It's that eternal optimism. I can definitely squeeze this in before the 10:00 a.m. meeting. Spoiler alert, no you can't.
Right. And that leads to another symptom, the waiting mode.
What's that?
You know you have a meeting at 2 p.m., but because you don't trust your internal clock, you freeze.
Yeah.
You're afraid to start any deep work at 11 a.m. because you're terrified you'll lose track of time and miss it.
So you end up wasting 3 hours just waiting.
Nothing, just waiting.
And this brings us to the why it matters part of all this. In a business context, this isn't just about being annoying. There is a real professional cost.
The cost is trust. That's the bottom line. When you miss deadlines or show up late, it strains trust with your colleagues, with your clients.
Yeah.
The article calls it the ripple effect. A missed deadline doesn't just affect you. It creates rush fees, lost offers. It forces someone else on your team to stay late to cover for you.
It's the difference between being seen as a visionary genius who's a bit scattered and just being seen as unreliable.
And very few of us can get away with the visionary genius excuse. Plus, there's the internal cost. The text mentions how this just chips away at your confidence.
It's a cycle of shame, right?
Exactly. You look around, you see others managing their time, and you wonder, what is wrong with me? And shame is a terrible fuel for productivity. It just drains that conductor even more.
So the goal of this deep dive in Römer's article is to stop fighting the brain and start building. Scaffolding.
Yeah.
Scaffolding to support it.
Yes. Let's talk about those strategic solutions.
Let's do it. The first big one is about planning and buffers. And I love this because it's so low-tech but so effective. The buffer strategy.
It's simple, but it's rarely applied correctly. The advice is to add 30 to 60 minutes, or even just a percentage, like 50% before crucial deadlines.
To absorb the unexpected.
Right. If you think it takes an hour, block out an hour and a half. This is your built-in correction for that time amnesia we were talking about. It changes the deadline from a cliff edge into a landing strip.
But you have to treat the start of the buffer as the real deadline.
Right.
That's the key. Otherwise, the work just expands to fill the time. The buffer is for the unknown, the urgent message, the tech issue, the fact that you're human.
Another tactic is front-loading. This is about removing what the article calls morning friction.
Yes, decision fatigue is so real. Your conductor has a limited battery for the day. If you're scrambling in the morning to find your keys, choose your clothes, pack your bag.
You're burning through that battery before you even start working.
Exactly. You're burning up your best energy. So front-loading is just prepping the night before.
Lay out the clothes, pack the bag. It sounds so basic.
It sounds like something you tell a kid, but for high-level executives, it preserves their mental bandwidth for the decisions they actually get paid to make.
Okay, so speaking of high-level work, let's talk chunking. Classic productivity tip. But how does it help with time blindness specifically?
Well, when you have time blindness, a big project can feel like this insurmountable mountain. You literally can't visualize the timeline.
So you don't even start.
You don't start. Chunking breaks it into small, defined pieces. But the key here, according to the article, is to sequence them with the hardest first rule.
Do the hardest chunk when you're freshest.
Because that's when your conductor is most awake. Don't waste your peak executive function on checking emails. Use it for the deep work.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me, the tools. The article argues for bringing analog tools into our digital workflow.
Yeah.
In a world of apps and AI assistants, Felix Römer is suggesting hourglasses.
It sounds so counterintuitive, doesn't it? But think about why it works. Digital time is abstract. A number on a screen doesn't feel like anything. It has no weight.
That's a good point.
An hourglass is tactile. It's visual. You can physically see the sand running out. It shows you the volume of time.
Plus, if I pick up my phone to check the time, there is like a 90% chance I see a notification and get completely sidetracked.
Precisely. The screen is a portal to distraction. An hourglass does one thing, and it does it without you having to unlock a device.
Okay, I'm sold on the hourglass. The text also mentions a 2-alarm system.
This is all about helping with transitions, which are a huge sticking point. People with time blindness often get stuck in hyperfocus. So the 2-alarm system uses one alarm to signal, hey, you need to start wrapping up. You save your work, close your tabs, and a second alarm to tell you to actually move or switch tasks.
It gives your brain a little runway instead of a sudden jolt.
Exactly.
The article also talks about whiteboards and checklists, specifically using a done next lane.
This helps build momentum. Physically moving a sticky note or crossing an item off a list, it gives you a little dopamine hit.
It makes progress visible.
It does. When you're time blind, you often feel like you've been working all day and accomplished nothing. A visual record proves to your brain that you are, in fact, moving forward.
Now, I want to talk about one of the most programmable strategies in the text. It's called the if-then technique.
Yes.
It feels almost algorithmic, like you're coding your own behavior.
That is exactly what it is. It's what psychologists call an implementation intention. You're pre-deciding how you'll react to a specific cue.
So you take willpower out of the equation.
Completely. You aren't deciding what to do in the moment. You're just executing a script you already wrote.
The examples are great. If the 25-minute timer rings, then stand and stretch. Or if I finish chopping dinner, then I set a 10-minute tidy timer.
It links a cue to a tiny pre-decided action. It's so effective for breaking hyperfocus. If you rely on willpower to decide, I should clean up now, you will lose that negotiation with yourself almost every time.
I spend so much of my day negotiating with myself. Just 5 more minutes.
Right. But if the rule is just, if I cook, then I clean for 10 minutes, you skip the negotiation phase entirely.
Okay, let's zoom out to the environment. The article mentions the launch pad.
The launch pad. This is a designated physical spot for your essentials. Keys, wallet, laptop.
To smooth out departures.
Exactly. It's about reducing friction. If you always know where your keys are, you don't lose that critical 10 minutes right before a meeting hunting for them. You eliminate a variable that causes panic.
And there's a mental component to this too, routines.
It all goes back to conserving the conductor's energy. If your basic morning and evening rituals are on autopilot, you save your brain power for the actual work.
The article also mentions a 1-minute breathing reset. I know some corporate types might roll their eyes at mindfulness.
Sure.
But how does this fit into a strategic framework?
Think of it as a system reboot. Before a critical activity, taking just 1 minute to breathe centers your internal clock. It pulls you out of that frantic, rushing mode and anchors you in the present. It's a 60-second investment for a huge return in focus.
A system reboot. I like that. Okay, we can't talk business strategy without talking about data. The final piece of the puzzle here is tracking and optimization. The article suggests a time audit.
This is the log actual strategy, and this is where the rubber really meets the road. Most people plan with optimism.
I'll do this in an hour.
Right. The strategy here is to record the start and stop times of what actually happened. So don't just write down report, 1 hour. Write down started at 9:00, finished at 10:15.
You compare the estimate to the reality.
Exactly. And this is what turns that vague feeling of I'm always late into a concrete metric. I consistently underestimate email responses by 15 minutes.
That is huge. Because you can't fix I'm a mess, but you can fix I need to budget 15 extra minutes for email.
Precisely. It removes the emotion and the shame from the equation. It's just data. And once you have that data, you can optimize. You can build a schedule that respects your reality, not your fantasy.
The article also touches on professional support. And I think it's important to mention that sometimes, all the hourglasses in the world aren't enough.
And that's okay. The text is very clear that seeking professional help, CBT, coaching, medication, is a valid strategic move. It is not a failure.
Right.
If you were a runner with a knee injury, you'd see a physical therapist. It's just good maintenance for your executive function.
It's all about building that durable skill set.
That is the phrase Römer uses, and I love it. Mastering time perception protects your career longevity and your mental health. It's about sustainability.
So what's the big takeaway here? It seems like it's that time blindness is mechanical, not moral.
That is the core message. We need to stop moralizing executive function. If you're struggling with this, stop beating yourself up. That energy is wasted. Instead, look at the mechanics. Where's the conductor struggling? Where can you build the scaffold? Can you use an if-then rule? Can you log your actuals?
It's about building a system that works for the brain you have, not the brain you wish you had.
Exactly. And frankly, in the modern workplace, the people who master these systems, who can manage their own attention and time, they're the ones who are going to thrive. It's a real competitive advantage.
A competitive advantage. I like that. So before we wrap up, is there one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most provocative idea here is this concept of making time visible. We live in such a digital, abstract world. So I would challenge you, the listener, to try one analog intervention this week. Buy a cheap kitchen timer. Get a physical hourglass. Write your to-do list on actual paper. See if making time physical changes how you respect it.
That is a great challenge. Get physical with your time.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to the SmartKeys podcast. We hope this deep dive helps you reclaim a few of those lost hours.
Indeed.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss our next deep dive. And we strongly encourage you to read the full article, Overcoming Time Blindness, by Felix Römer.
It is definitely worth the read. So many more details in there.
You can find the link to the full text right in our show notes. Go check it out. Until next time, keep your conductor on the podium and watch those buffers. Thanks for listening.